Welcome to the Rob Seco Field Ready Podcast with your host, Jim Robinson.
Hello and welcome back to the Rob Seco Field Ready Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Robinson. American agriculture has seen ever-increasing yields, and with those increasing yields, we've seen increased demands on the seed to deliver those higher yields. That's why it is critical to give every seed and every plant all of the advantages it needs to deliver on its full potential. Today, we're going to talk about Streamline Ag, seed-driven crop inputs that are offered through Rob Seco and through other sales channels. With us today to talk about that, we have Nick Maple, a representative of Streamline Ag. Welcome, Nick. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Like you said, Nick Maple, and I am very passionate about the agriculture industry. I grew up on a small family farm in north central Nebraska. And through that process, I've developed a passion for helping growers in any way that I can. Went on to get my agronomy degree from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and have been dealing with agronomy in one form or another ever since, most recently on the seed side of things, but working on a different venture here on the yield enhancement and utility products with Streamline Ag.
Excellent. So, Nick, to start off, why might additional management inputs be necessary in order to improve yields and or stability of your crop?
Well, I think as agriculture is ever evolving, and a lot of the growers and the guys in the industry are doing numerous things to get the most out of their fields and out of their crops and out of their seed corn. I just think that as we try to go from where we're at today to that next level, we're having to go directions that are maybe not as traditional as what they have been in the past, because we're getting pretty much the most we can out of our soils, and we're getting the most out of our genetic gain with the hybrids and varieties that we're planting, and commercial fertilizers. We've pretty much maxed out on those types of yield enhancement processes. So I think what we're kind of going towards now is more of these soil health and yield enhancement products that are going to bring us from where we're at today to that next level.
Absolutely. I mean, like you mentioned, we've pretty much maxed out on a number of the different inputs that we've seen over the years. That, or we're really only seeing small incremental changes or improvements year over year. And so really what it's down to more today is around precision within agriculture. And that may be through plant spacing, plant uniformity, maximizing both the usage and timing of nutrients that come in, whether it's your macronutrients or micronutrients that'll potentially enhance photosynthetic efficiency, or any number of things. So there are a number of products that are offered through the Streamline Ag brand and company that can help with maximizing these precision-based items, whether it's through timing of nutrients or otherwise. So let's talk a few minutes about a couple of these. And I think first off, as we think through the season, would be residue release in order to get started in the best way possible. Can you tell us a little bit about what residue release is and how it works?
Yeah, the residue release product, it's one of the most unique products that we have in the Streamline lineup. It's a biological, it's a blend of bacteria or biologicals that function together to break down the carbon backbone of any crop residue. When the product first came to the marketplace, we were looking at this as strictly a residue breakdown product, but as we've done more research with this product over the years, we're learning that not only are we getting the residue breakdown, but we're getting a pretty good number of nutrients released back into the soil from that residue in a accelerated time frame compared to what it would do naturally.
There are a lot of nutrients that are stored in that stove or in the crop residue that, really getting those to break down earlier and release those nutrients earlier is going to be a big benefit to farmers. Yes.
The product, when applied early in the spring as a burn down or even a pre-emerge chemistry, or with that chemistry, I should say, is allowing those bacteria and biologicals to break down the nutrients in that crop, put it in a plant available form, and slowly release that into our soils as that crop is growing and maturing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That process typically occurs on its own throughout the growing season and sometimes, depending on your geography, even into the following growing season, depending on how biologically active your soils are. So by speeding this up, you can actually make the nitrogen and other nutrients available much, much earlier to actually be incorporated into this year's crop yields. Now, are you only limited?
Yes.
Are you only limited to applying residue release in the spring? Can you do it in the early or mid-fall as you're going through harvest as well?
Yes. When the Mother Nature allows us to do so, applying this after harvest on any of the crops allows us to get a larger window for the actual residue breakdown. I mean, the nutrient release is still going to be available next spring and during the growing season, but we're going to see a little bit more activity on the actual residue that we're trying to reduce. So applied in the fall, you're going to see more residue breakdown. You're going to see a little bit more control of some of the volunteer corn that might be out in that field, some of the weeds. You're going to reduce the disease pressure because a lot of the disease spores hang out in the residue, and we're going to greatly minimize the residue that's left over from fall to the spring planting season.
Absolutely. And not only that, but as we talked about earlier, one of the most important things in setting up for your highest yields is an evenly, fully emerged crop that basically all the plants are spaced perfectly, emerging at the same time. And by reducing the amount of residue or the force required to cut through that residue, you can actually improve overall plantability in that field too, especially in corn residue where you get a lot of hairpinning and issues that can cause variable depth and things of that sort. So improved plantability is another benefit of the residue released product. Now,
yes, yeah, we're seeing an increase of 3 to 5% in corn stands. After this product is applied in the fall, and we're reducing the hairpinning and the root balling in the planting process for the spring.
Excellent. No, that's great news. Now, to transition into a little bit earlier into the season, so right around planting, starter fertilizers, etc. There's another product that's called Transit. It's another biological that should help with nutrient uptake. Can you tell us a little bit about Transit, what it is, and how it works to help improve corn's access to additional nutrients?
Yeah, the Transit product that we have is, as you said, an in-furrow biological product that goes right in the furrow with our starter fertilizers, or in some cases we have guys that are able to omit the starter fertilizer program and just add the Transit with water in furrow. But what it's doing is it's a product with multiple strains of bacteria that are going to assist in increasing the availability and uptake of the plant nutrients. Mm-hmm. They are going to help convert the mineralized potassium, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, nitrogen, zinc, and sometimes sulfur. That is going to put it into a plant available form. It's going to free those unavailable nutrients up and allow that plant, that root system, to access those nutrients that were previously unavailable.
Mm-hmm. Yes, excellent. So, each of these different nutrients are involved in a whole lot of different processes within the plant, whether, it's synthesis of new protein, assisting in photosynthesis, and, even some of this in the right balance and conditions can help improve overall stability of the crop, whether that's through standability or ability to take different stressors such as heat, drought, etc. Is that something that we should be able to expect from a product like Transit?
Yes, it is. Yep. When we're utilizing these nutrients in a more efficient form for that plant, the plant itself becomes a lot more efficient, and it's able to concentrate more energy on some of the processes within the plant that are going to help with your stock quality. It's going to help with nodulation, root development, and as we go throughout the season, you're going to pick up a lot of efficiency when it comes to the reproductive stages of the plant, and you'll see potentially less occurrences in the field like tip back on your ears, barren kernels during pollination, just because all those stresses have been relieved or reduced because of the increased nutrition and the efficiency.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, those are great things to be able to reduce and or improve. Now, being that this is, we were talking that there may be cases where a farmer may want to use this in lieu of a starter fertilizer. I'd assume you need to use a little bit more of the product to get that done. But given the current supply chain challenges, shortages on fertilizers and things of that sort, this is definitely a product to keep in mind in order to maximize the amount of nutrients that a plant has accessible to it. And, while it's not to be used completely in lieu of any sort of fertilizers, this can help overcome some of those supply chain challenges, correct?
That is correct. And a lot of times we're using these pop-up fertilizers to basically get that plant out of the soil quicker, evenly, a lot more evenly emerged, and developing that root system quicker so all these processes can happen. We're not really using, at least in fertile soils, we're not using these starter fertilizers as a means to add more nutrients to the soil. It's just to help with the emergence of the crop. So when you put a product like Transit in furrow and it goes out and grabs nutrients that are in these fertile soils, you're basically doing the same thing that your pop-up starter fertilizers are for about a fraction of the cost.
Absolutely. No, that's a huge benefit. Now, to move on a little bit, as we get through the growing season, and this next product is one that correct me if I'm wrong, but we can use multiple times throughout the growing season, is Prophase. Can you tell me a little bit about Prophase, what it is, how it works, and when to use it?
Yeah, the Prophase is our plant growth regulator, and we can use this product in furrow, actually referring back to the Transit program in lieu of the starter. The Prophase added with the Transit and a quart of zinc on corn is where we're seeing the most benefit, because what the Prophase is going to do is it's going to give us a quicker developing and larger root system. So when that corn emerges and that root's starting to be developed, and then you got the Transit in there with your strains of bacteria that are going out and grabbing nutrients and bringing it back to that root, the two work hand in hand. So you're getting a bigger, faster developing root system. You're getting microbials in the soil that are going out and grabbing the nutrients and bringing it back to the root. So they work together to really get that plant started off in a positive and quicker developing method. Mm-hmm. The Prophase can also be used as a in-season product. It's going to be applied. You can apply it early on before V5 or up to V5 on corn. You can apply it up to basically R1 on the soybeans, and it's going to basically stimulate that plant and get you more growth for about 14 days after it's applied. You're going to get more leaf surface area. You're going to get more overall plant growth. So you're going to have a bigger factory for your photosynthesis, mm-hmm. Process in the plant and your nutrient storage.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like you said, I mean, if you can improve seedling vigor early on in the season or, prior to having shaded the row, if you can get that plant to shade the row more quickly, you're just going to capture more light, maybe potentially even help with a little bit of weed control, and then also set the potential for the plant to increase its overall yield potential throughout the season because it's actually harvesting a lot more light. And as you said, I mean, if you can improve root growth early on, you may end up stimulating the plant in such a way that the roots can penetrate more deeply or broadly to access more water than it might otherwise be able to. And in years where commodity prices are so high and the potential for drought is moderate to probable, then being able to sustain through that drought is a really attractive offering.
When, using the Prophase with your NPK micro fertilizers or foliar feeds, you're also going to pick up a lot of stress alleviation, and you're going to pick up, because of the processes that are being more efficiently transpired through that crop, you're going to pick up some some later season health and some stock qualities and some things like that too. So
absolutely. I was just going to bring up the fact that all of this additional plant health, access to nutrients, access to water, may help the plant from preventing it from cannibalizing itself, which could improve your overall standability late in the season. So that's a perfect addition. Now, Nick,
correct.
Anything else you want to add about Prophase?
I think that's pretty much it. Oh, I guess the one thing I would like to add about Prophase, it gets overlooked a lot of times, but for guys that are doing their own soybean treatment, the Prophase can also be offered as a treatment added to what they're already treating on that soybean seed. It allows you to reduce that rate a little bit, save a little bit of money, and give you the exact same benefits of the Prophase in furrow as a seed treatment if guys are interested in using it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, not everybody's set up perfectly for those in-furrow treatments, and so being able to incorporate it into seed treatment is a nice benefit. Now, Nick,
yep.
Overall what we talked about today is more or less that, commodity prices are really high. The demands for your seed and your fields to have maximum yield potential are extremely high. I mean, we've seen yields setting new records year after year for decades. We have little ups and downs here and there, but overall, we are seeing record-setting yields across the country on a regular basis. And so, in order to keep achieving that, we can't keep relying on just bulk fertilizers. And while germplasm genetic potential is improving, we need to make sure that we're getting everything we can out of that germplasm. So sometimes that means a few extra management inputs that can help really drive that seed to yield more. And so what we talked about today is getting a uniform stand with enough nutrients, more or less, through the use of a product like residue release, which can be applied in the fall or the spring in order to reduce the overall amount of residue that's on the field, release nutrients earlier into the soil to be utilized by the crop, and even to help with uniformity of spacing, emergence, and uniformity of emergence on the subsequent crop through the reduction in hairpinning and variable depth at planting. Then we went through Transit, which is another biological that's designed to assist with nutrient uptake by changing the mineralized forms of various different nutrients into a form that's usable by the crop. And finally, we went through Prophase, which is a blend of plant growth regulators that can be used in furrow or post-emergence kind of throughout the season in order to help stimulate growth of that plant, make a larger factory for that plant to basically harvest sunlight, turn it into grain, or improve stability of the crop overall. Anything you want to add to that summary?
No, I think we pretty well summarized that quite well. The one thing I would like to point out, I think is really important for guys to wrap their mind around, the value of that residue release is, we talk about the nutrient release and what it gives us back into the soil. We've been soil sampling the test versus a check on that product, and we're seeing pretty much consistently a 25 to 30 pound nitrogen credit, a 10 to 15 pound phosphorus credit, and about a 40 to 50 pound K credit that we're releasing back into that soil within the first 15 to 30, maybe throughout the next 60 days on that product. So I think we really need to let people understand the value that's bringing back to them.
Absolutely. There are real economics in those kinds of fertilizer numbers, and that you don't have to pay for that to be applied, and buying fertilizer right now is not cheap. Yep. So, Nick, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And if you have any questions about Streamline Ag or Streamline Ag's products, we only covered 3 of those products today. We do have quite a few others that are available. Feel free to reach out to the website, and we'll post that within the description of the show. But, Nick, thank you for joining us.
Yep, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, as always, be sure to tune in on the 1st and 15th of each month for new episodes. And until then, stay field ready.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Rob Seco Field Ready Podcast. Join us next time to be Field Ready.
A Hurrdat Media Production.